You are listening to the ReRACEables podcast. Hello and welcome to the ReRACEables podcast. I'm your host, Tom. I'm joined tonight by my friends Lizzy and Josh and my wife, Nicole. Welcome in, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
So here we are. We're going into episode 4. We have, from what we could tell, we're heading to Paraguay. And the one challenge that they kind of showed, and people on social media, all the contestants are kind of talking about, is this building a cello contest. What do you think? Is that an interesting challenge to even see or deal with, building things? Josh, you're a builder.
Yeah, I like the technical challenges. I think that they're more interesting than the gotcha challenges. Didn't really love the car gotcha. You didn't do the horn. You didn't read the clue. But I do like something that's a little more technical that actually shows off your skills.
So far we have out Nathan and Cody, Kelly and Levon, and last episode, Jerry and Frank. I interviewed those two the other day.
Check it out, Travel Council blog.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah, Jerry and Frank are so cool. Such a great conversation. Check that out on the YouTube channel. Jerry was everything that I thought he would be, which is great. He's a coach through and through. And Frank is the son of a coach. You could tell how much his dad really has made an impact on him and everything that he does. But unfortunately for them, they're out for one reason. They're out because they didn't read the clue. And this seems to be a continuous theme. Why can't people read the clue, Nicole?
Get a clue. Read the clue. It's too late to be making these rookie mistakes. It's season 32. They should have known better coming into this. It's disappointing to watch. And there are some teams that I can't believe are still in because they've made the same mistakes. So, yes, Jerry and Frank didn't read their clue, but a lot of other people didn't either. So, we'll see.
Alana and Leo.
Alana and Leo, Will and James.
Every time. Yeah, Will and James didn't read either.
Even Gary and D'Angelo, right?
Yeah.
They were on the boat.
Yep.
A lot of people in the last challenge. And Jerry kind of pointed it out in the interview that the clue told you one clue before the one that got you on the boat. The clue before that, when they had to gather all the items, told you to take the bag of stuff. And so the producers really do a nice job of kind of hiding all that in the previous clue that can kind of get left out in your hurry, hurry, hurry mentality. And that bit Jerry and Frank for sure. Last episode, we also saw a real change in who was first, right? We saw Will and James jump from towards the bottom of the pack to first position. Were we surprised by that? What do we think?
I was happily surprised. I have them very highly ranked.
Highly ranked.
First ranked. So I was happy to see that they weren't making the same kinds of mistakes that other people were. Who else jumped? I feel like Gary and D'Angelo jumped quite a bit, right?
They jumped the last episode. They went from 10th to 2nd. They're in that top half in that alliance. Do we think the alliance stays together this episode?
There's like 5 teams in this alliance.
Too many teams to stand.
Yeah, there's gonna.
I think they're gonna help each other when they can, but I don't think that they owe each other anything.
Yeah.
So the biggest move of the season, I would say so far, was Will and James in this past episode where they used the U-turn. It was a double U-turn, and they started the party with the U-turns. They used the U-turn on Alana and Leo, dating back to Alana and Leo, telling Kaylin and Haley the big secret of the horn and the car challenge from the previous episode. Too early to use the U-turn?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's too early to use it. I think that they were in first place or second place, and so why would you use it? I don't think that you should use a U-turn when you're ahead. If you are falling behind or your alliance is getting into a difficult position, that's when you use it. But there's no reason, like the game we keep talking about, the game being your journey, right? Like you need to just not come in last place. And if you're gonna for some reason like knock out other people, I think it's just like an ego thing then. When your ego gets in the way, you're not going to do well.
Because then the people you U-turn are still going to be there, and now you have a solid enemy.
Now you have
which you don't need.
Exactly.
So when should they use it? Should they have passed it up?
I mean, the last 3 teams should have used it.
So that would have been either Jerry and Frank, Kaylin and Haley, who did use it on Jerry and Frank, or Alana and Leo.
Yeah. Yeah. When Alana and Leo get there, they know that there's a team right on their trail. Boom, knock them out. Or knock out the team that you know is last. Solidify that they're in last and solidify your place in not being last that round. That's why you use it. Although, if you only get 1 U-turn the whole season, why use it at all? Use it when you really need it. There's no reason for Will and James to use it. It's
Yeah, but remember, they're super fans.
Stupid gameplay.
But remember, they're super fans. They see the U-turn, they want to do it,
If anything,
want to use
being
it.
a super fan
Stupid.
should mean that you would have known how to use it. You would have strategized. You would have seen other people make mistakes in seasons before you, and they didn't.
You only use it when you know they're going to be knocked out.
So how does it affect them, Nicole, going forward?
Well, they have kind of maybe not become villains, but to Alana and Leo, they certainly have.
Yeah.
They've just put a target on their backs unnecessarily.
Yes. Agree.
Right.
It's early for that, too. Let's go to Hung and Chi.
Oh.
Nicole has her number 11 team hanging solid. Let's see, I have him at 8th. Josh had him at 5th. Lizzy at 6th. Are they the favorites? First, and second through 3 legs.
I don't think they're going to win it all, but they're definitely a strong team. Wow.
They're stronger than I thought they would be. They're not my favorites, but
They're nobody's favorite.
they're not your favorites.
I think you can all hear the bitterness through the recording here. We'll see what happens with them. Really been impressed by them. Just solid, chugging along, completing challenges, doing what they need to do to get through the race, and they've been impressive. First, and second.
Yep.
Let's get to our predictions here. We do before every episode here in the pre-show. We pick who we think will be first, who we think will be last, based on what we have seen so far, looking at our power rankings and trying to will our way to a correct answer. Have to report last week. Give it up. Josh, Lizzy, and myself got the last place team correct, Jerry and Frank.
Sure did.
Nicole was duped by Alana and Leo's Instagram posts.
Alana, you duped me.
Yeah. And she would give you the winky face as she did to me when I sent her that message. So let's, you want to start with first or last? First. Let's do first. Josh, first place this leg. Who you got?
Gary and D'Angelo.
Why?
I think that they're a really strong team and they're in top of the pack right now. I don't think that coming in first this round means you win it all, but I think they're a strong team and I think they're going to come in first.
Nicole.
Riley and Madison. I think they're just consistently great.
She has them as her number 2 team behind Gary and D'Angelo. Lizzy, first place.
I think I'm going to stick with Will and James. They came in first last leg. They are my number 1 in my all-season power ranking. So I know that they made a stupid move last time, but it might have worked out for them. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm going to go with Ishwar and Aparna.
Oh.
The young kids,
Yeah.
engineers, there's a building challenge,
Yeah.
multiple languages that they can speak. I think it was Ishwar that was really flashing his Portuguese in the last... He was, yeah.
Yeah, the more I watch them, the more I like them.
Really impressed by them. For my last place team, who I think will get eliminated, it might kill my rankings, but I'm going to go with Kaylin and Haley.
Yeah.
I just haven't been very impressed by them, and I may have misread them, and...
Although they seem to have a strong alliance with Alana and Leo. I don't know if that's going to turn into anything,
Yeah.
but I think it's worth noting.
Uh-huh.
So who you got, Lizzy?
So I agree with Tom. I think Kaylin and Haley will be last, just because that is who I have lowest ranked now, and I would like that for myself.
Lizzy would really open up a lead there, folks.
Yeah.
Nicole?
I think, unfortunately, for my power rankings, Alana and Leo.
Oh, no.
Oh, Jesus.
Nicole has Alana and Leo in the 4 spot. She's already lost her 3rd place, Kelly and Levon, and 5th, Nathan and Cody. That would be absolutely devastating. And Josh, round us out. Last place.
Kaylin and Haley is my pick for last place.
Wow, he jumps on the bandwagon. All right, folks, it's 10-2 or less than. We need to jump in. It's time to go. We'll see you after the episode. So welcome back to the ReRACEables podcast.
Sorry.
So we had an interesting happening. The 4th episode was supposed to turn into a 2-part. It got cut off because it was the day after the election and the vote counting. So episode 4 happened, and it was a non-elimination leg. They flew to Paraguay. They had to build the cello from the garbage for the roadblock.
I like that.
They had to take the taxi where there was a yield. They had to prepare a national drink. They had the almighty detour between stacking the melons and the bottle balancing. And we had another win by Will and James. I want to start with the roadblock. Building the cello from garbage. Who would have done that?
Well, we talked about this quite a bit because I am a cellist. I've played the cello for upwards of 10 years. So I'm very familiar with how string instruments work, how they are, kind of constructed, but I've never actually done it. And I would be willing to say that Josh is the better builder between the two of us. So I think he would have excelled at that. So my instinct was like, oh, I'll do this. I play the cello. And then as the challenge went on, we were watching, I was like, I don't know if I would have been as good at this as I initially thought.
What do you think was the hard parts of the challenge there, Josh?
I mean, I think figuring it out. You're dealing with trash, and you're putting trash together to then create an instrument. And we saw the, I don't know what it's called, but the piece that held up all
The
of
bridge.
The bridge kept falling, and that seemed to get most people down, tightening those wires.
Yeah. Who would have done it between the two of you?
Tom.
I think I would have had to. It's I don't know. I'm good at I think so. I'm good at putting.
He would have been there all day if it were me.
Yeah,
I'm
like
not a builder.
D'Angelo mentioned, it was the IKEA challenge.
Yeah, it was.
Being married a couple months here, I've put together a couple of pieces of furniture. Not a cello made of garbage, but I think I could have managed. But it would have been a
Even
challenge.
before we were married, you've been putting together things for me since the day you met me.
Let's skip ahead. I really liked that they had to do the national drink. Kind of like a little blip in the whole episode. Not really too much there. Another one of those root info challenges, but cool that they bring that into the fray there. We don't have much time because the 5th episode is about to start, but the detour, stack your melons, bottle balancing.
Oh. Hey Siri, stop.
Let's go to the detour. The stack your melons versus the bottle balancing. Both looked like they were challenging in their own right. D'Angelo and Gary, Riley and Madison initially chose the melons. Everybody else chose the bottle balancing. Hung and Chi had switched midway to go to the stacking the melons. Which one would you have chosen to do?
Melons. Stacking the melons.
Stack the melons.
Yeah, I feel like I have pretty good balance, but I don't like those tasks that anything can go wrong, and I feel like by reading the task of stacking some melons, it feels like, oh, that's like the grunt work, the physical work. Let's just do it. It usually gets you ahead quicker. So I would have gone stack the melons.
Yeah, that's good enough reasoning to convince me to stack melons. I'd like to think I have good balance, but he's right.
I like a finite endpoint.
Yeah.
It's like when you know where you have to get to, you just have to do it. If it's wandering the streets, no thank you. Use a map, no thank you. If you know where your start point and end point is, we can get there and we can do it quicker than any other team.
I agree. I would go with stacking the melons.
So what made it so difficult, though? I would agree. I think all of us are on the same page. We would want to stack the melons. But what made it so difficult for Gary and D'Angelo? What made it so difficult to actually finish it?
I think there was an element of attention to detail that they didn't see. 'Cause
Foreshadowing.
If they, I don't know, it was some way like how they were turned or something like that. That's how they got them to stay.
Yeah, I think
That
they
they did
weren't
not pick
paying
up on.
attention to like the shapes of
Yeah.
the melons.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, you can have 10 by 10 by 10, but then they're not. If you're not looking at the size differences and the way that they're turned, they're not going to balance the same way.
Which
Absolutely.
I think Hung and Chi came in, saw immediately,
so quickly,
and then that's why they got out so fast.
Yeah, pretty wild.
True.
We had a pretty exciting finish. We had Gary and D'Angelo, Kaylin and Haley. Great editing.
Yeah.
Who was going to finish last? It ended up being Kaylin and Haley in last place. Not surprising. Let's go back to our three of us. Myself, Josh, and Lizzy, again, get the last place team finish. That's twice in a row we've done that.
Wow.
Yep.
And big ups to Lizzy. She got the first place team also with Will and James. So that's a double. Really impressive. So we've learned a little bit more about Will and James. They've jumped up. They've won 2 straight legs. We've seen Hung and Chi dip down. Gary and D'Angelo dip down. We've gotten introduced to what speed bumps are. There was another chance at the yield. A lot of things going on, but we're about to see the second episode that we were supposed to see last week. Who do we got for first and last, Josh?
Will and James. Will and James first place.
Really?
And I think we're gonna stick to what we're saying. I think Kaylin and Haley are gonna go home.
I hope so. They're my bottom place for this because in my grand scheme of power rankings, that would be the best for me, and they've set themselves up to be last.
First place?
I think Riley and Madison.
It's time for them to take a W.
Wow.
Sure, why not?
Nikki?
I agree with Lizzy
Nice.
Riley and Madison?
purely because of her records.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Kaylin and Haley again. I think that they've been exposed, and it's gonna kill my rankings. But
I mean, look at the teams who are near them, right? We have, oh my gosh, Aparna Ishwar, Hung and Chi, Gary and D'Angelo. It's like there's a battle there. They're not gonna win.
yeah, and I'm gonna go Alana and Leo take a W here tonight.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm a product of the coming attractions and Leo knowing how to drive the stick shift and all that, but I feel like they're due. They're smart. They're a good team, and I think they're going to come through with a win, although I do like the Riley and Madison.
So we have three teams down. Are we now entering the underdogs? What are your category names again? Your first outs, and then
Yeah, so we have the No Chancers, which have already been a little blown up thanks to Michelle and Victoria. We're in the good experience crew.
Good experience.
Yeah, these are the teams that are going to have a good experience on the race. They'll hang around for 4 or 5 episodes, but that's about it. And it looks like I might be wrong on Hung and Chi and Alana and Leo being those teams. It might be Kaylin and Haley and, dare I say, my boys Gary and D'Angelo.
Wow.
Ooh.
I know.
Oh, Lizzy.
Lizzy's
Great picks.
Yeah,
Right.
so we'll see what happens. We'll be back after the 5th episode. Stay with us.
Hey, Coles.
So just a mid first part so just a first commercial prompt that I forgot to put in there. We're gonna go back to the episode and we'll be back. But we had a non-elimination leg.
Oh yeah.
Where are we at with the non-elimination? Do we like them? Do we think we should have them or not?
Absolutely, we should have them. I think they make them the game exciting. If you don't you can keep your favorite teams here when they don't have a great leg.
What it also instills in people is hope.
Yes.
Hope that there's not going to be an elimination.
Yeah, it's true.
And hope drives people like nothing else. So it's a motivator. It's a reason to keep going, and I think it's very strategic to keep non-elimination legs in the race for that reason.
Especially if you're far dead last.
Yep.
You can easily just be I'm just going to go spend all my money and go to shopping. But instead, it gives you an incentive to keep racing and keep getting there. Because if it's a non-elimination leg, you don't want to be 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours behind the last team. Because then you're definitely going to be eliminated. But I do really love the speed bump. This is an exciting thing that I think you're going to go on the journey with us as we learn about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about all the twists here that I'm learning about. I haven't learned about the U-turn until now, and speed bump the same.
Great. So good.
But non-elimination, I mean, there was no penalty, correct?
It's a speed bump. So they have to do another challenge
That's right.
to stay in it.
A quick little 30-minute thing that usually people don't have any trouble doing. But
It's like knit a bracelet. It sucks and you have to spend time learning how to do it, but it's not like going to get you eliminated or not.
Do you think that's too much, too little, or just right?
I think it's just right.
Yeah,
I
because
think
usually
I didn't like when people had to start begging for money in
I
these
agree.
like third world countries. Yeah. That's not a good look. Agree.
I agree.
So for it to just cost them time. Yep. Time is money.
And
So-
skill too.
Yeah.
I think.
All right, folks, sounds like we're in on the non-elimination. We like the penalty being the speed bump and extra challenge. We'll have to see what happens. We'll be back. Episode 5 in the books. We're at the surfboard. We're looking at the power rankings. It's time to cross out Michelle and Victoria. Big night for Tom. His 11th place team, Michelle and Victoria, bit the dust. Big night for Josh, too. Josh had them 10th. Lizzy, your thoughts? Number 5.
Kaylin and Haley should have been out. That's all I have to say.
Nicole, storming back, making up some points here. Number 9, Michelle and Victoria out.
Woo!
So after episode 5, let's take away 11. That puts me at 30. Josh at 34. Lizzy at 37. And Nicole at 41. Having the number 11 team on my power rankings out keeps me in the lead at 30 points after 5 episodes. Overall reactions to this episode?
Great episode.
This was a really good episode. This would have been a great ending to last week's episode, like it was supposed to be planned, but that's it.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have that 2-parter and then end it that way.
Yeah.
Let's recap here. Nicole and Lizzy both got the first place team correct with Riley and Madison. Good job by you guys. And all of us got the 4th place team wrong because we all had Kaylin and Haley. Why don't we start there? Kaylin and Haley, they came in last in the non-elimination, had to do the speed bump, the extra challenge, the cleaning the different horse equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they were able to make it up, and they didn't come in last.
They did come in last, but Michelle and Victoria were their own demise in getting lost for 6.5 hours.
Doesn't that seem impossible?
Yeah, yes, it does.
I
It
liked
really
how
does.
they put on the map how they were so close,
Yeah.
yet they couldn't find it.
It was helpful for us and awful for them that we could see where they were at and they couldn't. But yeah, the games weren't even a problem for them. I feel like they were there for about the same amount of time that everybody else was. It was just the directions. It was the first self-drive leg, right?
Mm-hmm.
That always, messes with some people.
But still, if you have to drive yourself, at what point do you just start asking every single person, or you stop at every hotel,
That's
or
the other
anything? At what point?
They weren't in the middle of the country somewhere with no one around. They were in a city where a lot of people speak English. Man, so frustrated.
It seems implausible that 5.5 hours, 6.5 hours they were driving around the city of Paris.
I would love to know their thoughts on that.
Well, hopefully we can get them this week before the next episode. I will definitely be asking them.
I mean, be
all about
nice.
that.
I feel like we have not been nice just now. I'm sorry, but what happened there?
I mean, it's hard, right? If you have to drive yourself, and we'll talk about the stick shift and all that and that challenge, but at the end of the day, whether it's season 1 or 2 or season 32 here, at some point you have to just say, we don't know where we're going. What else can we do? How could you, unless the clue said you cannot pull over and ask people, which I think is not
Never
likely.
has that been a part of the music.
I just don't understand how you could literally drive around that long and not, do some of the strategies you see, like pay another taxi to follow them, or pick somebody up and offer them money to direct you or something.
It could be a point where you just give up, and then you're just kind of like, I don't even care. You know, or like they probably got food. They probably ate food. I don't know. I feel like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, they are the drama ones. I mean, I did have them number 11 for a reason. I felt like their self-proclaimed drama queen and extra, as they put themselves, I thought that would end up biting them. And I don't know that this is exactly an example of that, but you know, when they faced a little bit of a hurdle or adversity, they crumbled and they weren't able to regain themselves. Shocking, but a gift to Kaylin and Haley is what I'll say for sure.
Yeah.
So the leg started off going from Paraguay to Paris. How excited would you guys be if you had to go to Paris on the race? Ooh, big eye roll.
I think going there again would be a better experience for both of us. Period. End of sentence.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a whole story there.
There's a couple stories.
Okay.
But yeah. I think that if we went on the Amazing Race with each other, it would be a lot more enjoyable than the last time he was there and the last time I was there.
Well, having never been there, I think it would be pretty interesting. I don't know. I would love to go to Paris. I would love to be in a city. I feel like it would be a little bit more manageable as far as the race versus like what Jerry and Frank were telling me about from the previous leg when they were driving around Brazil and the taxi cab was bottoming out and burned rubber and dirt roads and I don't know. It might be a little bit easier. How about driving a stick? Does anybody here know how to drive a stick shift?
I did for a little while in college. One of my best friends had a stick shift car and she taught me. And I think for about 6 months, because I was practicing and I was doing it often, I was good at it. But that was like upwards of 5 years ago. And I think I've lost all those skills.
If I got cast in the Amazing Race, I would make sure I was impeccable at driving stick shift.
Yeah, well, yeah, that too.
And Will and James even mentioned that. They said that they practiced.
Took lessons.
Yeah, and, you know, advantage to them being the super fans, right?
Yeah.
If you're the super fans, you know that that's a big hiccup for a lot of teams, but yet it still tripped them up, right? I mean, they didn't do all they could to really practice that. So what do you do, though? If you're on the race and you have to drive a stick shift and you can't, what's your play?
Ask for help. Find, like what you said earlier, find somebody that does know how. Make it work that way.
You have to still do the driving.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you can't pull over for a 5-minute lesson real quick and just have some of the basics explained to you. I feel like once you have like 1 or 2 things figured out, the rest of it's kind of...
Yeah, I think getting that to happen is more difficult than it sounds.
Well, he asked, what would you do? And I would do that.
Great.
Yeah, I don't know if it seems like something that you could necessarily figure out on the fly.
Yeah, you can't pull over like to somebody in New York City and be like, "Hey, can you teach me how to drive a stick shift?" Like, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I don't even know. I feel like I don't know anyone that even has a stick shift car. Do people have stick shift cars in America?
Motorcycle has a clutch and you have to change gears. It is kind of like a stick shift.
And my friend had one for a really long time.
Someone who like has an old car, like Jenna's dad has an MG convertible. It's an old like classic car. Stick shift.
So with the stick shift, we saw Will and James struggling, and Leo, frustrated, gets out of the car, runs up the little, spiral staircase of a driving parking garage. Do you think Will and James regretted the U-turn in that moment?
No. I don't think they did. Do you think they did?
I mean, in the end, Leo still helped him. I do think that they realized the U-turn at that moment. I don't think that they ever really got it but that understanding, that recognition, made them second guess it. Yeah.
But even still, we saw, I think it was James, double down and say something about
he said,
what Leo said, and he was being,
You
an
didn't
ass.
have to be a dick about it
Yeah,
or something
right.
like that. It's like, you don't have the room to say that after somebody just helped you.
Yeah.
Right, and kudos to Leo for taking the bull by the horns in that moment and be like, these guys have to get out of the way, even though we don't like them, and we hope that it gets them eliminated, that we have to get out, pull them out of the way so that we can keep going. Yeah. We saw the second clue was a roadblock, the eye for art. There was a party happening. They have to find a character that matches a character in an art piece. There were 9 characters to match, 9 pieces of art. What did you guys think of that challenge?
Difficult, but I think I would have been okay doing it. I think of Josh and I have better memory, so I probably would have been the one to do that. But some of the strategies that some of the teams displayed, I thought were brilliant. It's like, go with the pick a character first, and then finding the painting that matches them, because there's 100 paintings, but only, a couple dozen people betters your odds. I think Hung did that. But yeah, I think there's ways around it. It's difficult if you don't but if you break it down into smaller pieces, then it's manageable. I feel like a lot of challenges on the show
She
are
made
like
sense,
that. Yeah.
Who do you think would have done that one between
Me.
us? So what would your strategy have been?
I would have looked for the person with a similar to Riley, was it, or Madison? Like, look for a person with a distinguishing feature and then match it.
Yeah, also smart.
So Riley Madison used the facial hair. Gary used the collar. It's kind of like a ruffled white collar. Or who was the one that was looking for bright colors?
That was Riley before he found the facial hair.
How about the actors playing those characters?
What about them?
Well, think about it, right?
I want to know what they were all talking about.
Right. Yeah, but you're in this museum.
French dinner party.
Yeah.
You're simulating this party, and you're in these costumes, matching the painting. These maniacs are running in, out of breath, in much different clothing.
Can I take you?
Wait, come with me, holding your hand, bringing you to this thing.
Yeah. I think about that every time there's one of these challenges. I'm like, these poor people have had to be here for 10 hours out of their day waiting on people to show up. Yeah.
Right, and are they actors? Are they
be.
museum workers? What are they? How do they even find themselves? And think about the planning that goes into it. Okay, we need, 100 extras at this art museum. That's the second largest. What was it? What did they say? The second largest behind the Louvre with the number of paintings.
Yeah, they did.
You know what that is? That's a casting call put on the equivalent of playbill.com. That's all it is. And you get people that'll show up and do it. This show has gained so much traction.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what it is. To be a part of it is exciting. So even if that means it's just like, oh, I'm getting paid for the entire day, great. I just have to stand and be at a party. Awesome. I don't know. I would do it. But yeah, I think about that a lot every time they do stuff like this.
The other thing that kind of stands out from that challenge is Alana said it and James said it. They both kind of got into the roadblock and said out loud how cool it was to be in that museum, to be looking at the art. I think Alana said she was an art history or something major.
Fine
arts.
A degree in fine arts.
Okay.
MFA, yeah.
My question's what activity can you enjoy on the race?
How do you mean? I feel like she enjoyed that because she had a master's in fine arts.
I know that, but she's in a race. She has obviously been in museums or she's studied art or whatever she's done, and she comes into this challenge. She says, "This is my challenge. I want to go," and she runs in, but she's on a timer, right? And she's not. How much of that? Even if it's just that activity, how much of it are you actually able to enjoy versus I have to find this, I'm just here to accomplish a task?
Yeah, you don't. I wouldn't.
Hardly any of it. Yeah, I think that it's...
Unless you're on the other team, unless you're the person not competing.
Yeah.
Because then you're just waiting for your partner to be done.
But I think you go into the race knowing that even if you do get to do a cool thing, you're not going to get to enjoy it as if you were there on vacation. Nothing about the Amazing Race is relaxing. So you know that going in. So you can't really be too upset if you like get to go inside the Louvre, but you don't get to spend any time there and you have to leave. It's like, yeah, of course, that's what it is.
I think like Gary was trying to enjoy it, and I think it was painful to him that he was looking at it, but it was stressful.
Mm-hmm. The art lover that he revealed he is.
Yeah, D'Angelo was abusing him about that too, just laughing in his face. Okay, so we had Aparna struggling, 16 attempts to finish this.
Yeah.
In the beginning, Aparna Ishwar said that they didn't have any weaknesses. What do you think made it so tough for her?
Panic set in, I think.
Yeah.
I think she was just then, she got it wrong 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, then she sees all these teams finishing before her, and then she's just grasping at straws.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you also start overthinking it, like, oh my gosh, did everybody else get it? Like, what am I missing? Frantically just choosing things.
By the time you rack up 16 tries, it's like, not only do you have to find the matching person, but you have to remember the artist's name. So it would be incredibly easy to get the person right, but then say the wrong artist. Oh, that was artist number 12, not number 15, which I'm on, you know. And so I think after every fail, it just like her fuse gets shorter and shorter, and that's why you make mistakes like that.
This is also one of the harder challenges because you don't actually really know, like you have an idea of what you need to get, but there isn't any outcome. So just like I was talking before, when you don't see point A and point B, you can't figure out what those loopholes are going to be. You're still trying to figure out what the challenge is. And I think that might have been where she might not have gotten the challenge completely and known that like it comes down to like the mole on someone's face or not. And I think that's kind of what threw her off too.
And then you think about the fact that they are software engineers, and so they're very used to a world where 2 + 2 = 4.
Yeah.
And when you throw someone like that into a world that is full of interpretation and art and like it is whatever you see, that's not a strong suit for people who are very like logical, which they are. So
last place coming into that was Kaylin. And before they even got to that roadblock, they had the speed bump. Having never seen the speed bump before.
Oh, yeah, what do you think?
Right, first impression. I liked that it wasn't something outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I liked, like Nicole said when we talked about the non-elimination, that it wasn't taking all their money and making them beg and then, you know, whatever that entails. And I'm glad, I know Josh is a big proponent about taking money out of it for the most part.
And
So
they have taken money out.
Right. And I think that the speed bump was another example. I also like that it was near the next clue.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't such a, it wasn't such a step backwards. They had to go 10 miles this way, complete something, drive 10 miles again. It was right. It seemed to be at least right outside of where the roadblock was.
Yeah.
So speed bumps, good idea. And in the end, it proved to not be too much of a hurdle for them to overcome, thanks to 6.5 hours or whatever of driving. Okay, so we went to clue number 3 was the cream of the crop. One of the route info challenges, which we're really not sure about at this point. It's not a roadblock, it's not a detour, it's not a fast forward, speed bump, U-turn, intersection, you name it, it's not it. It's a route info random challenge, but was this the best challenge, the most fun one so far?
Oh my God, yes. Yes, of course it was. You got the costumes, first off, always a great element. And then people having pies thrown at them is never bad TV. So.
It was the same joke 7 times, but the joke landed every time.
Hilarious.
It was always funny.
I like that the people throwing the pies really like went for the heads. They had no mercy.
They
These
sure did.
French people that they found to throw pies.
Yep.
Right.
French bakers.
How about and the guy that was right at the opening of the tent? So they barely even got in through the gate, and
Yeah.
a pie just hits them in the face.
Mm-hmm. It's really sticking out to me. Ishwar was like second into the door. Aparna hadn't even made it into the into the curtain, and it was just like smack on the cheek. So good.
Was that the best day of work ever? I mean, if you're those people,
Yes.
Had to have been. Had to have been.
it's like you come home from work and you know. So, honey, how was your day? Well, funny you should ask. We actually had these maniacs who were racing around the world, and we got to throw pies in their face.
I was surprised no one dropped
Yeah,
the
me
pies
too.
that they had just made. Nobody dropped anything.
Well, some people had tip off.
That's true.
And this alliance is becoming interesting.
Very strong.
This show of alliances is stronger than any season I've ever seen. Granted, there's a lot of seasons I haven't seen, but this is unlike anything. It's just like people go out of their way to help other people, when in the past usually it's like if it's convenient, if it's on my way, if it's, you know what I mean, nobody has to try to work too hard. Even people that don't have alliances with each other, like Leo going to help Will and James, it's like, I guess that was a little selfishly motivated since they just needed to get out. But anyway, yeah, very, very strong alliances.
And I don't know how much it really made a difference that Riley and Madison told. What did they tell?
Hung and Chi.
That
And Will and
you had to
James,
hold on to it.
Yeah.
A little show of faith in the alliance, but not much.
Mm-hmm.
I think the bigger thing was the coming attractions for next week, where they talked about how Gary and D'Angelo were kind of on the outs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe that plays a bigger part because, well, a lot of us have Riley and Madison in the top
It's wild to see that.
2. The lowest anyone has them ranked is 4th with Lizzy, but we all think they're going to be there at the end. And
Yeah.
Nicole and I have Gary and D'Angelo as the top team.
Jeez.
Shout out. But but we'll see what happens with the alliance. Again, it only can help so much. It doesn't really play that gigantic of a factor, but it certainly did help. Every little bit helps. And even still, in this leg, Hung and Chi were able to come in second. Maybe that was part of it. Maybe they drop a pie without that, or gives them a little bit of a time delay.
Gotta race your own race.
The 4th clue was kind of, they had to just go to the one museum to then get to the roadblock, which was the 3 carnival games. So the 3 carnival games were the 3 balls in the mouth, the toilet paper knockover, and the horse racing. My favorite part of this whole roadblock was the ticket that they had to get stamped. It was very Polar Express.
I liked how enthusiastic. Props to the French people on this episode. The extras, they were so enthusiastic when someone would get their ticket clipped or knock over the cups. They really were very passionate.
And it added to it.
It
It sure
did.
did. It raised the stakes a little bit. It made your experience a little more enjoyable.
They
And I'm sure a
met
lot
the
of people-
contestants' excitement.
Yeah.
Josh, you made a comment during the episode about this challenge that you really liked it.
Oh yeah, no, I thought it was nice that it was a physical challenge that wasn't completely physical. Like there was a
wasn't a
mental factor.
strength-based.
It wasn't a strength-based physical challenge.
Yeah.
I think not even like leveling the playing fields, but I think it's kind of like going back to the idea that to win the Amazing Race, you can't just be 2 strong guys. You have to like really be able to outwit, outstamina, outsmart, outplay, out-comment, out-subscribe.
Stop.
Outshare.
Outshare.
Tribal Council blog.
Anybody else. And I think that it's exciting to have challenges like this. We really, really saw that anybody could take the lead and anybody can do it. And that, to me, is also really exciting television.
It's weird also that this was the second roadblock. I haven't seen the later seasons, and perhaps it doesn't follow the same formula that the earlier seasons do of in each episode there's a route info, another route info, then a detour, a route info, a roadblock, and then the pit stop. I don't really mind it. It doesn't seem to be that there's a real count of who's doing how many roadblocks either. I know Jerry and Frank were trying to front load the roadblocks with Frank doing them so that they could try to stay around for a little bit longer, but that was the only real indicator of a number of how many you could do.
Yeah.
But that seemed like a fun thing. It seemed like, again, a thing that's everybody could do. Anybody could have been successful at it, whether it's Leo, who hadn't thrown a baseball since middle school, or who was it, Chi, that really worked on his eye-hand coordination and not his hand-eye coordination.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So let's round it out. We had team number 1 was Riley and Madison winning the Travelocity trip to Vietnam. It seemed like they got they made it to the mat at 8:41. It seemed like they must have been really far ahead of everyone. I don't know how much the editing and how much you have to really like weave them into the storyline. It seemed like they were pretty far ahead the entire episode.
They didn't see anybody the entire time, yeah.
And you also got to think about when they left in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So if you leave only about 15 minutes around each other, there's a very easy chance for you to just get ahead and stay ahead. And I
They
think
all
they
flew
did.
though. And remember
Is that
they
where
all
they started?
Yeah, they got in together. Because remember Riley and Madison were in the first car and they left, and when Will and
And then
James
it
were
was
stalled,
mm-hmm.
Lon and Leo
So
were like,
then
damn, Riley and Madison are already ahead of us.
Just luck then.
Yeah, it is just luck, honestly.
So crazy.
But also like good directions, good following the tasks. They really just plowed through this race and they deserved to win.
Yeah.
Are they the favorites? I know we've seen Hung and Chi a lot of success. I know we've seen some other teams, Will and James, to first place the last 2 legs before this episode, but
I mean, we really haven't seen a weakness in them. We've seen weaknesses in everybody else, and Riley and Madison are really just a strong contending team.
They're growing on me. Overall power rankings, I have them ranked 4th, and
that's the lowest of any of us.
Yeah.
yeah.
I wish I put them first.
Oh.
I do.
Oh.
Yeah, you and Tom both have Gary D'Angelo first,
Oh.
Riley and Madison second. Interesting.
Well, that was a homer pick, totally. Gary and D'Angelo are my guys. Carolina Panthers, Panther Nation, keep pounding.
Okay.
That'll be rough when they go out next week.
Yeah, I'm worried about them. They did make up some time. They caught Ishwar and Aparna. They kept the lead over Kaylin and Haley, but they're very aware of the fragile components of how fragile all this is and how one mistake can lead to not only almost coming in last in one leg, but only getting up to 5th in the next leg.
I think what's interesting is when a team is on their way out, it's not necessarily just one episode. It takes 3 episodes for a team to get out, right? Like you're in the lead, and then you drop to like the bottom middle, and then you drop to the back, and then you fight your way 1 episode, and then you're out. And I do start feeling the storyline arc of Gary and D'Angelo, like, it's coming. It's coming. We can see it. It's like 2 or 3 weeks away.
See, I completely disagree. I think that the fact that this game is so up in the air, bad cab driver in this country, but, we were able to do the challenge the best in this country and not everybody could, makes it so that anybody could be in the lead in the next leg at any time. I think the opposite, if anything, if you are in the top 3 or 4, you tend to stay there and then it's a subtle fall, but that doesn't mean that anybody could be anywhere at any time. I don't think that there's a gradual, you're on your way out. I think it could be like, we were first last leg and now we're out this one.
I see it both sides. I do. I think, well, to Lizzy's point, Michelle and Victoria were 2nd place last leg.
Exactly.
But then 5.5 hours of driving around the city of Paris, and somehow it doesn't dawn on them to, I don't know, ask for help.
But is anyone surprised they're gone? That's
No,
the thing.
no.
It's like when teams are eliminated, you're like, it was their time to go. I mean, maybe we were all upset with Kelly and Levon, but I think even in the first episode or second episode, I started to feel that they weren't as strong of a team as I thought they were going to be. So I do think that like that's also part of the excitement of this game is that like you have to keep watching to keep understanding why teams may go.
To that point, I think Kelly and Levon would have been great in like season 3 or 4 because the race was more geared towards people who were athletically inclined, and they are, but the game has changed so much now where it's like, oh, well, how well can you play a steel drum? What? That's not something that happened a lot in the early seasons. And so it's people like that aren't very athletic, like Kaylin and Haley or Hung and Chi that can stay in for longer and be fine because you test other skills that aren't your physical strength.
And that's also a testament to every episode, right? Like the fact that we can look at this and say that there are weaknesses in every team, maybe not Riley and Madison, but we see that there are weaknesses in every team. And so next week, any team that goes home, I would say, yeah, I remember 3 weeks ago they weren't that good. It's like, I think
justify it.
You can justify it, yeah. And that's also another thing about casting, right? You need to find like likable, lovable, but also flawed, normal people. If you had all
Gary and D'Angelo's.
Yeah, it's not as exciting. Or even all Riley and Madison's.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen seasons where people just dominate every single leg, and it's not exciting.
You want to see some failure.
You want to see some failure.
I do. I do. That's what makes it
Clapping when we get to the end.
You want to see people fall. You want to see people drop their pie. We were all hoping someone would get hit and drop their pie.
It's very true.
But none of them did. So were you happy to see the struggle in the car? The 5.5 hours, 6 hours?
I know you were.
Oh, you bet I was. Well, no, because the weakness I saw before the season even started, maybe it's not exactly the weakness that they showed, but they were fragile. They had a major flaw. They didn't have the ability to kind of overcome some adversity because they are the drama queens. They are that extra, and those people don't have the kind of the grit or the wherewithal or the situational awareness to take a step back, understand what the problem is, why they're failing, and then make the adjustment to solve the problem and get to the next roadblock and not lose to a team that had to go not only was like seemingly hours behind them, but also had to do the speed bump on top of it.
Yep.
That's all on Michelle and Victoria. Again, it's bound to happen. It's maybe gradual. Maybe it's just kind of all of a sudden, or it's something that we kind of seen their weaknesses over the course of a couple episodes or whatnot. And I wouldn't have guessed that it would happen this way specifically, but I'm not surprised to see them go out in this fashion. So Michelle and Victoria are out. They kind of end off with, this is the closest we've ever been in our lives. We never told each other we loved each other. It was a nice little send-off. Not quite at the level of Jerry and Frank, but
Well,
it is nice to see, though, sisters or any team, and whatever their relationship is, leave the race with a different outlook and level of their relationship than they entered the race. And it seems that that's the case for Michelle and Victoria. So we bid them farewell. We wish them well, but my power rankings thank them.
Yeah, you might not want to show that when you interview them.
Anything we are looking forward to going into next week?
I think this Gary and D'Angelo, especially looking at our power rankings, where they lie and where their future holds is very interesting. We have 2 out of the 4 people picking them as number 1, and we have 2 of the 4 people picking them as 6 and 7. And so really, I think we're getting towards the meat of the season, and we're going to really find out what are they made of? Are they going to be in it for the long haul, or are they weaker than some of us thought?
just a pretty average team to me right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing how long people like Kaylin and Haley can keep this going. they got hope. They were surprised. Maybe they can be re-energized by it all. And you got to think, too, will they have the opportunity to catch up on an all-aboard type plane situation that'll kind of even the playing field going forward and kind of reshuffle the whole deck at this point? Because I think the only team that's really standing out to me as the top favorite is Riley and Madison.
Yeah.
They seem to, again, we've said it a couple times, but they're the only team that seems to have no flaws. Whether it's language barriers, working with other teams, communication in foreign countries, you name it, they know how to do it. And I could see them kind of front-running the rest of the way.
I do think they have flaws. I just don't think we've seen them yet.
True.
And they could snap, and be out. I'm excited for the next 2 weeks. 2 episodes for the next 2 weeks. So we have 4 episodes to recap in 2 weeks.
There's 2
next week and 2 the week after. Hold on tight. It's gonna be a doozy.
non-eliminations, we think, again?
No, so
Whoever knows. Nobody
Find
ever
out.
knows.
We'll find out, but thanks for joining us again on the ReRACEables podcast. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Lizzy. Thank you, Nicole. We'll see you next week.